started. This is our first webinar. We're going to try to do these every month. And the title of these is basically, it's not normal to feel this way. And with that, we're going to pick different topics. The reasoning, I guess you could say, behind this title, it's not normal to feel this way, is because there's so many symptoms that we as individuals normalize. And then, like in my own journey of healing, I realized I dealt every day with stomach pain. And once it went away, guess today, then you'll get a copy of the follow-up that you can share as well. So let's go ahead and start the slides, making sure everything is good on everyone's end. Is that good? See a chat? Okay, awesome. Good to see you, Kelly. All right, let's go get the slides started. So again, the title, it's not normal to feel this way, and today we're talking about gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD. And as you can see here, this is just kind of an up-close picture of what happens when that lower esophageal sphincter opens and allows reflux to go back up into the esophagus, causing gastroesophageal reflux. My name is Melody McLean, and I established Healing from Within a little over 5 years ago because I was sick and tired of conventional medicine and the pill for an ill mentality. I knew there had to be other solutions, and there's more info in my bio on the website as to, my family issues and different things as to why we started Healing from Within. But basically, we like to fill in that missing piece of your body's health, what's going on, and get to the root cause and give you a cure and not a pill for an ill. So what everybody ought to know but doesn't about heartburn and GERD, or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. We all know that it's basically intense heartburn, right? It's a more serious form of acid reflux. It is the most common digestive disorder in the United States. Studies show that at least 10 to 20% of individuals experience symptoms at least once a week, and the prevalence of GERD is increasing steadily. This next bit of information just floors me. Drugs for acid reflux and GERD are cash cows for the pharmaceutical companies. More than 60 million prescriptions were filled in 2004. That's in 2004. I would be anxious to know how many, since COVID and all the digestive issues that have come up since then, how many scripts are written for GERD now. Americans spent $13 billion on acid-stopping medications in 2006, and Nexium, the most popular, brought in $5.1 billion alone, making it the second highest selling drug behind Lipitor. And we all know about Lipitor and cholesterol, etc. That may be one of our "it's not normal to feel this way" PowerPoints that we do in the near future. So recent studies also show that damage from poor stomach function and GERD not only extends upward. So we know of it as being heartburn, but it can also go downward into the digestive tract. So this contributes to IBS and other GI problems. IBS is now the second leading cause of missed work behind the cold or whatever virus is going around. If you ask just anyone, even television commercials show, if you ask anyone, they say heartburn is basically too much stomach acid. That's what is shown. You see the acid coming up, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, etc. But there's a problem with this theory, and the incidence of heartburn and GERD increases with age. But here's the thing. Stomach acid levels generally decrease with age. So that leads us to believe this is not necessarily an excess of stomach acid. So look at this chart. Basically, this is in the 11 to 20 age group with stomach acid secretions. And we get into the 30s, the 40s. I don't know why it rose up just a tad here, 51 to 60. But then by the time 61 to 70 years old, notice its major decline. Other studies show that women 80 years of age or older, about 40% of those actually have zero stomach acid. None. So that leads us to believe that GERD cannot necessarily be from excess stomach acid. So what is it from? When we carefully test people over age 40 who are having heartburn, indigestion, and gas, over 90% of the time, we find inadequate acid production by the stomach. This is a documented saying from the Chris Kresser's heartburn. However, I see the same exact thing daily here in the clinic. It's crazy. Jonathan Wright, he's an MD of the Tahoma Clinic in Washington State. He has studied and treated patients with GERD, and for 25 years, he's done testing. He found very few of these people with excess stomach acid. So in 25 years, very few have excess stomach acid. What's more, Wright and other clinicians have found that giving hydrochloric acid supplements to patients with heartburn and GERD often cures their problem. I know it's so hard to wrap your brain around it, but it really is true. He says, in 24 years of nutritionally oriented practice, I've worked with thousands of individuals who have found the cause of their heartburn and indigestion to be low stomach acid. In nearly all these folks, symptoms have been relieved and digestion improved when they've taken supplemental hydrochloric acid and pepsin capsules. We use digestive enzymes here in the clinic, and we have several, and one of those being the betaine HCl. Looks like I'm frozen. Am I frozen?
This has a delay on it, so we haven't.
Okay. So we use the Designs for Health, betaine HCl, and pepsin. A symptom is not a cause. So repeat after me. A symptom is not a cause. I'm not denying that the symptoms of heartburn and GERD, first of all, we know that they're real, and we know that they are caused by stomach acid that refluxes up into the esophagus. Nor am I arguing that reducing or eliminating stomach acid with drugs doesn't relieve those symptoms. It does. It reduces your acid. But what is crucial to understand is that any amount of acid in the esophagus, whether it's a very small amount or what's a very large amount, is going to cause problems because there is no lining in the esophagus as is in the stomach. So you don't have to have excess acid in your stomach to have heartburn. But is there a cure? Well, curing a disease means eliminating its cause. When a disease is cured, the symptoms go away. Taking proton pump inhibitors, PPIs, Nexium, Prilosec, all of these PPIs, taking these do not cure GERD. They don't. They actually open up a series of a whole other myriad of other problems that we're going to discuss here in a little bit. We know it doesn't cure it because once they're stopped, symptoms recur. A lot of this is just touching like on the basic top part of it. And again, if you want this handout, you can email us, info@healingfromwithinhouston.com, or go to our website and click for more information, and we will send you a copy of this. I do give a lot of my patients a copy of this when they come in for their new patient evaluation as well. But remember, PPIs don't cure GERD because once they're stopped, the symptoms come back again. Now, if you think this sounds strangely like the situation with the number one selling drug, Lipitor, you're correct. because Lipitor lowers cholesterol across the board, even the good HDL, even though evidence clearly states that LDL is not the cause of heart disease. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on that, but it's not. And what's more, low cholesterol is associated with greater mortality in the elderly population. I know the other day I saw a patient for his 10th UBI follow-up, and he was still taking the statin that the doctor had told him he had to be on, and his cholesterol was dangerously low. I'm like, you have to get off that statin. All of your efforts that you're doing, he's corrected his diet, he's working with a nutritionist, he's getting our IV therapy here, ozone and UBI. I'm like, you're doing everything that you're supposed to do, and taking a statin on top of this is lowering your cholesterol to a dangerous level. So there is that. Now, hidden causes of heartburn and GERD. The idea that heartburn is caused by too much acid is still popular. If you ask anyone, again, we said that, they'll probably say that. It's popular in the media and in the public. It's just a mindset. Instead, the prevailing scientific theory, so this is science, guys, it's that GERD is caused by a dysfunction of that muscular valve, the sphincter, known as the LES. We kind of went over that at the beginning with the picture. So the LES normally opens wide to permit swallowed foods and liquids to pass easily into the stomach, and then it closes. And except for belching, this is the only time that this should open. But if the LES, that lower esophageal sphincter, is malfunctioning, as it is in GERD, then the acid from the stomach goes back up and damages the delicate lining. Treating GERD with profound acid inhibition will never be ideal because acid secretion is not the primary underlying defect. Again, the acid secretion, that's not the issue. We need stomach acid to digest. So, what is the cause? Well, we have low stomach acid, which can be from age. It can be from being on acid inhibiting drugs such as Prilosec, such as Nexium, etc. That leads to bacterial overgrowth. Also, maldigested carbs, carbohydrates. That in turn leads to increased intra-abdominal pressure. So that pressure causes that LES to open. And then we have heartburn and GERD. So, low stomach acid. What does low stomach acid do? It causes bacterial overgrowth. You need acid in your stomach to digest food. You also need that acid in your stomach to get rid of bad bacteria. If you have low stomach acid, then you're going to have a bacterial overgrowth. Long-term use of Prilosec, one of the most potent acid-suppressing drugs, reduces the secretion of hydrochloric acid, HCl, in the stomach to near zero. So, it also causes maldigestion of carbs. So, as we've already said, stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, basically supports the digestion and the absorption of carbohydrates. Why? Well, it releases pancreatic enzymes into the small intestine. If the pH of the stomach is too high, so remember in pH, remember science, a high pH is alkaline, a low pH is acidic. So if the pH of the stomach is too high due to low stomach acid, then those pancreatic enzymes that are needed to break down carbs are not secreted. And therefore, the carbs will not be broken down properly. So, when we have bacterial overgrowth plus maldigested carbs, guess what? We get gas. In Heartburn Cured, it's a book, Dr. Robilliard points out that though microbes are able to metabolize proteins and even fats, their preferred energy source is carbs. the fermentation of those carbs that haven't been digested properly. What digests them properly? Stomach acid, right? Produces gas. This reducing gas increases that IAP, which is the driving force behind acid reflux and GERD. So now are you convinced that it's not excess acid that's the issue here? Also, some researchers now believe that IBS is caused by bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine, SIBO. A study performed at the GI Motility Center in Los Angeles found that 71% of GERD patients tested positive for IBS, double the percentage seen in non-GERD patients being examined. 71%, that's huge. Now, H. pylori. So I see it all the time. It's just a bacterial overgrowth in the stomach. It's very painful. Perhaps most importantly, for taking those acid suppressive drugs, researchers now believe that the initial infection with H. pylori can only take place when you have low stomach acid, even if it's temporary. So in 2 human inoculation experiments, infection could not be established unless that pH of the stomach was raised by using the PPI drugs. So your risk, if you are on a proton pump inhibitor, Nexium, Prilosec, any of those, your risk for H. pylori, severe stomach pain, is very high. And so also your risk for bacterial overgrowth is very high. And there's more. So stomach acid plays a key role in the digestion of protein, carbs, and fat. So when food is eaten, the stomach secretes hydrochloric acid. That triggers the production of pepsin. So you must have the release of stomach acid to release the production of pepsin. Pepsin digests proteins. Almost all of my patients on their functional lab panel show that they need more protein. Then I find out they have low stomach acid. And I tell them, well, that stomach acid is needed to digest those proteins. Without it, we can't produce the pepsin and the protein cannot be absorbed. If you don't absorb protein, then you are at risk for sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is muscle wasting. And I always tell my patients, decreased protein intake equals increased frailty. You don't want to be frail. You don't want more frailty, more risk of bones breaking, it's osteoporosis, etc. That protein must be absorbed for muscle function. It also plays a role in the digestion of carbs as well as fat. So pepsin, remember, is required to digest protein. If HCl levels are suppressed, so are pepsin levels. As a result, proteins don't get broken down into those amino acids and peptides that we need, and this can lead to deficiency of essential amino acids, which leads to even more problems, chronic depression, anxiety, and even insomnia. You have to have amino acids. And if you're not breaking down those proteins, then you're not getting them. So this is where I like to interject. We are offering a special, and I think I can put that up. We'll start an offer. Let's see. Publish. It's our first time to do this. So basically, this is offered to you for $149. It is a $780 value. I know if you get our emails, you get those a lot. This is an excellent starting point. So as far as starting point, meaning it doesn't test your full thyroid, it doesn't test the full hormones, but if you're just needing to know basic digestion information, etc., this is a great place to start. This evaluates your kidney and liver functions. It also evaluates hemoglobin A1C, glucose, etc., glucose regulation, vitamin D, cholesterol, CBC, which that's a complete blood count, which lets us know if you're anemic, etc. Mineral, protein, and vitamin absorption. And this will let us know if you have low stomach acid. So just that alone is very, in my opinion, very important. Everybody in the world should have this lab panel done. The result, you get about an 18 to 20 page report emailed to you the day of your visit, and then we go over it each step by step, and it lets us know even what vitamins you're deficient in, a percentage of everything that's out of range in order of importance and how it needs to be evaluated. And with that, you also get the evaluation, the consultation. It's a brief consultation. It's not a full hour visit like we do with the others, but again, it's a good idea for patients who just want to know where they are, especially if you have GERD and you want to fix it. Okay, so now that you're all depressed and wondering how in the world are you going to get rid of this, 3 simple steps. It really is this simple. So following the 3 R's of treating heartburn and GERD naturally, basically we want to reduce those factors that promote that bacterial overgrowth and low stomach acid. If you're on a PPI, you've got to get off. Now, we'll talk about that in a bit, because anyone who's on PPIs, they make an appointment, I do refer them out to a functional nutritionist, because it's just a lot more work than what I do here in clinic. You can still do it on your own, but sometimes having that hand to hold is very important. So you want to reduce those factors. You want to replace the stomach acid, enzymes, and nutrients that aid digestion and are necessary for health. Now, here's a note. Just based on this, if you're watching this and you say, oh, I need to get some betaine HCl, you don't want to take a high dose of betaine HCl with pepsin if you are on NSAIDs like prednisone, indocin, ibuprofen, considerable amounts, even corticosteroids like prednisone, etc. You don't want to do that because they already kind of mess with the lining of the stomach. So we need to get to the root cause as to why you're taking those first. Is it pain, etc., and then go from there. But again, it's doable. And then once you've done that, you've reduced and you've replaced, then we want to restore that beneficial bacteria and healthy mucosal lining in the gut. Importance of working with a functional nutritionist. This is who I use, Amy Shelton. That's her number, her email, and her website. And she's with Emergence Functional Nutrition and does a fantastic job. And I will say, by far, every patient who works with Amy that also does our therapy, the recommended therapies here, where we do the functional panel, most of them we also check thyroid hormones, etc. They follow our IV schedule, UVI, ozone, whatever the recommended thing is for them here, the modality here in the clinic. Working with Amy and working here together, I see much higher success with those patients. And then more important tips. So if you don't have betaine HCl, what else can you use? Well, apple cider vinegar, lemon juice, unpasteurized sauerkraut and pickles are other time-tested traditional remedies that often relieve the symptoms of heartburn and GERD. It's also important to avoid consuming liquid during meals. Believe it or not, a lot of excess liquid dilutes that stomach acid concentration, and then you can't digest those proteins, etc. And finally, for those who have been taking acid-stopping drugs for several years, it's necessary to replace those nutrients because you're going to be B12 deficient. I mean, I see it every single day. You'll also be deficient in folic acid, calcium, iron, zinc, and very important minerals. And so it's best to get those levels tested through our clinic. So hit that schedule now and get that promotional panel. And again, this is Chris Kresser's Heartburn GERD handout. And I would like to open this up for questions if there are any. I'm going to go to the chat now.
I haven't had any questions in the chat just yet.
Yes. So, Bree, years of digestive issues. Most doctors would prescribe antacids, but thankfully went to naturopath, listened. Yes, best decision with as it came with side effects. He also said acid reflux is mainly due to not having enough acid. Yeah, you don't hear it. You do not hear it. Anybody else have any questions and answers? This first webinar, we wanted to leave it at around 30 minutes. And again, we're going to upload this to YouTube, so it will be saved. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Kelly. All right. Well, thank you guys. It was good to get this rolling and get started again. We're going to do this at the end of every month. Today is the 31st of August. Before I leave, I would like to say happy birthday to my daughter, Caitlin, who lives in Colorado. She's 29 today. So me at age 29 finally has a 29-year-old daughter. Go figure that one. I hope y'all have a wonderful, blessed week. And thank you so much for attending. We done?